The people are so fearful and desperate that they'll believe the thinnest veneer has substance to it. And so they have this hope. And hope, by the way, is the most negative word in the metaphysical dictionary. It means nothing. You know, it means wishing that you scratch off that lotto number and win without doing anything.
As president, I will end misguided defense policies and stand with Caucus for Priorities in fighting special interests in Washington. I don't posture on defense policy, and I don't take money from federal lobbyists for powerful defense contractors.
Look who Obama just brought in as his deputy defense secretary, a chief lobbyist for one of the greatest of all of the military-industrial complex companies, Raytheon.
As of today, lobbyists will be subject to stricter limits than under any other administration in history.
Which basically means, it is saying, we will mostly put tough new restrictions on lobbyists, except when we won't. If you have no intention of abiding by your new rules, then don't make new rules. That would be actual transparency.
People out there do not want lobbyists for the military-industrial complex running the Pentagon.
First, I'll stop spending $9 billion a month in Iraq.
If you look at Obama's voting record, I mean, he has voted to, not to end the war. He has voted to finance the war.
I'm the only major candidate who opposed this war from the beginning.
He wants to send more troops into Afghanistan. He wants to broaden the military. So I think it's a fraud what he's talking about.
And as president, I will end it.
In an interview last week on PBS, the defense chief, Robert Gates, was asked how many American troops he thought might still be in Iraq 3+ years from now. He thought there would be a residual force of U.S. troops in Iraq that numbered in the several tens of thousands. Several tens of thousands of U.S. troops indefinitely staying in Iraq, even beyond the country-to-country agreement we just signed with Iraq that says we'll leave? Boy, if you are one of the 70% of Americans who wants U.S. troops out of Iraq on that 16-month timetable that Obama promised, I bet you are glad about this election we just had, huh? Getting rid of that old administration that sees several tens of thousands of American troops indefinitely in Iraq for years. Wow, good thing we are saying goodbye to George W. Bush's defense secretary, Bob Gates. And now we're saying hello to Barack Obama's defense secretary, Bob Gates.
We've got 130,000 Americans fighting halfway across the world in a war that should have never been waged, led by leaders who have no plan to end it. We don't have time to be cynical.
The U.S. may try to get around the just signed requirement that U.S. combat troops be out of Iraqi cities by June of next year by massaging the meaning of the word combat. You ready? Quote, military planners are now quietly acknowledging that many troops will stay behind as renamed trainers and advisors in what are effectively combat roles. In other words, they will still be engaged in combat, just called something else.
We don't have time to be cynical. We don't have time.
So, Iraq withdrawal? Not really a withdrawal. And as for Afghanistan, well, there's not even a semantic pretense of withdrawal plans there. A massive U.S. troop buildup is in the works, according to the Associated Press today. Quote, all told, the U.S. could nearly double its troop levels there to as many as 60,000, sending up to 4 combat brigades and thousands of support forces within the next year.
I don't switch positions or make promises that can't be kept.
Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, these countries are tiny compared to the Soviet Union. They don't pose a serious threat to us. Iran, they spend 1/100th of what we spend on the military. I mean, if Iran ever tried to pose a serious threat to us, they wouldn't stand a chance.
Iran is a grave threat. It has an illicit nuclear program. It supports terrorism across the regions and militias in Iraq. It threatens Israel's existence.
So let's recap here. Not withdrawal in Iraq, potentially doubling forces in Afghanistan. Oh, and there's also that escalating as yet undeclared war in Pakistan, where officials claim another U.S. drone killed at least 7 people today.
This is the administration of a Democrat, said on his election form, Jimmy Carter. Trilateral Commission member, also Council on Foreign Relations. Democrats, and here's administrations, here's CFR-TC, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations. This is more Jimmy Carter, more of the same organizations coordinating policy through this apparently elected administration. So then you get to 1980 and you think, oh, well, I'm fed up with them Democrats, and of course I'm in a democracy, and so therefore I can choose someone different because I want to change the policy, you know, and it's great being in the land of the free and all that. And so you choose Ronald Reagan. His chief advisors up there were David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger, two of the great brotherhood manipulators of the 20th century. And then again, the names change in these various positions, but the coordinating bodies do not. CFR, TC, everywhere. More Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was a non-member, but he didn't have to be, did he, Ron? He read the autocue, did as he was told, like they all do. But he was a member of other secret groups and, of course, Bohemian Grove, as we saw earlier. Again, here you have the ambassadors, the Congress, the State Department, CFR, TC. So then you move on to George Bush. So there again, another administration, different names, same coordinating bodies. More George Bush, same again. So then you get to, what is it, 1992, and you say, well, I'm fed up with them Republicans. They've had all these terms, and you know, with Reagan and Bush, and I think we ought to have a change. And so along comes Slick Will from the Windsor bloodline from Arkansas, and he starts saying that he stands for change, and I stand for change, and vote for me, we need change. That was his mantra throughout that election. Well, let's see how the change took place. Here's Bill, member of all of them, got the full set, and there again, different names. We're Democrat now, because it says so. Same coordinating body, Bill Clinton administration again, same coordinating bodies.
Secretary of the Treasury, Timothy Geithner, Bilderberg Group and Trilateral Commission member. Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, Bilderberg and CFR member. Ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice, Trilateral Commission. National Security Advisor, General James L. Jones, Bilderberg, Trilateral Commission, and CFR. Deputy National Security Advisor, Thomas Donilon, Trilateral Commission, CFR. Special State Department Envoy, Henry Kissinger, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, and CFR. Chairman, Economic Recovery Committee, Paul Volcker, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations. Director of National Intelligence, Admiral Dennis C. Blair, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, CFR. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, CFR. Deputy Secretary of State, James Steinberg, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, CFR. State Department Special Envoy, Richard Haas, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, and President of the CFR. Obama Presidential Advisor, Alan Greenspan, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, CFR. State Department Special Envoy, Richard C. Holbrooke, Bilderberg, Trilateral, CFR. And the list goes on and on.
Change means nothing. It's just a word, and it's a cliche. It's just to repeat it has no meaning. What are you going to change? And I would argue, you offer no change.
When the Messiah speaks, the youth will hear.
You know, this love affair with our new president, used to be president-elect, this Obama guy, this was from a sermon and stuff from the, Stowe, Ohio Assembly of God stuff. And this was on 11/9 of 2008, and it was given by Pastor Chris Decker. This is where, in bullet points, okay, he turns around and he tells his believers, followers, whatever, that Barack Obama's presidency is appointed by God. Did you hear me? Could you believe that? Okay, well, maybe that's what he believes, and so that's what he's telling his people. So go down to another bullet point where, as president, Barack Obama is God's minister to you for good. Whoa. I mean, last time I heard stuff like this is one like Hitler or Mao, fearless leader, great leader, divine one, all this other stuff. I just wanted you to get that because, remember when I told you that FEMA was working with the clergy in what's called the clergy response teams? Well, I'll ask you, do you remember the clergy response teams? Have you looked up or typed into your Google search engine clergy response teams? There's a little news. Just so you know that, once again, for sermons, we're telling you that Obama was appointed by God.
Clergy response teams were employed in the aftermath of the New Orleans disaster. The first directive that these pastors were mandated to preach to their congregations was a passage from Christian scriptures, Romans 13. This is the same passage that German pastors preached to their congregations to subdue potential uprisings at the beginning of World War II. I seriously doubt that a man who calls the U.S. Constitution a goddamn piece of paper has our best interest in mind. Perhaps the question we should be asking before we voluntarily submit to any government is, which God does this government serve?
When he was 12 years old, they found him in the temple in the city of Chicago, arguing the finer points of community organization with the prophet Jeremiah and the elders.
Thank you.
He traveled fleet of foot and light of camel, with a small retinue that consisted only of his loyal disciples from the tribe of the Media.
Sorry ass motherfucker got nothing on me, right? Nothing.